Hi handsome, welcome to another Black Desert in a Nutshell, the series where I explain parts of the game without all the unnecessary fluff. Today, let's talk about the Elvia accessory cups. Elvia Cups give you bonus stats such as AP, crit damage and HP for your accessories. To make them, you will need different combinations of these three shards, or as we call them, cookies, which you can in turn find all over Elvia Serendia grand spots. Not only are these shards crucial for your gear progression, they can also serve as a good moneymaker early on in the game. But before we get to talking about them, first the setup. The AP caps for these spots are relatively low, so you should be able to reach most of them right after graduation. If that is indeed the case, your crystals should focus on special damage and look something like this, provided you can afford them. If you can't, just go with whatever crystal page you have. Likewise, assuming that you do reach the AP cap, your consumables should look something like this. You can use Fallen Harmony drafts if you don't reach the AP cap or if the mobs do too much damage to you. This should be your reminder that ever since the combat overhaul update to BDO, species damage no longer works the way it used to, meaning that it no longer goes above the AP cap. So don't bother with demi-human light stones or ultimate aimed weapons or anything of that nature. I will also add that Simple Cron Meal now also gives you the crit and back attack damage that Exquisite Cron Meal used to give you, so just use Simple Cron Meal. Also, do not use Aggress here unless you absolutely need to, because they did not adjust the spot for Aggress efficiency, so you will blow through Aggress in a couple of minutes at best. As for your class, generally speaking, you want something that has good pack-to-pack movement, has decent AoEs and damage, and short cooldowns. Good options right now include but are not limited to Awakening Sage, Awakening Nova, Succession Tamer, Awakening Musa and Meiwa, Deadeye, and Meigul. Another important thing to mention is that you should always go to the NPC Wakitoshi to get his Elvia Marni stones. Every single one of these gives you another shard for your cup, and you will generally speaking be able to fill at least 2 to 3 of these stones per hour. You can also take the quests associated with each zone that give you Predator's roots that you can exchange for some vendorable items. Do not take the Seed of Void as they give you the least value per root, but any other is fine. If you are wondering what those items are for, they can get you Obsidian Blessar armor, something that is completely obsolete in 2025, so don't worry about it and vendor all of these items that you can. The core mechanic of all Elvia Serendia spots are the Elvia weapons. When killing mobs here, you have a chance to spawn a fairy, which will give you a pop-up message on the screen and a question mark on the minimap. If you interact with this fairy, you will get a buff which will make you into a beast of a killing machine for 10 minutes with a 20-minute cooldown before you can take another one. If you are an Awakening class, you will also get a cool new move, so feel free to use that. Some of these rotations that we will talk about will utilize this weapon, so keep that in mind. Alright. That's the setup done. Now for the spots. These are all the spots you can go to with their associated chart. Let's talk about the yellow spots first, since there is actually something to mention. I will do Bloody Monastery at the beginning, as it is the worst of the bunch, and that is for the very simple reason that it gives you the least amount of shards. The trash does have higher value, but you don't really go here for the trash, you go here for the cups. If you still wanna go here, the best rotation is on top of the Marne realm up in the monastery itself. You can go and hunt down the elite mobs scattered in the forest below the monastery, as they give you more trash and have a higher chance to drop the shards as well as the other goblins from here, but you will need a fast character for that. You will also get the Crimson Bell here every now and then, and this spawns waves of mobs on your location if you activate it for some time, and the mobs will follow you around, so you don't have to stand around and wait for them. I was told that you can just ignore these bells entirely and just never activate them, but I still do them anyway because I think they're kinda cool. With the monastery out of the way, I will bunch the other 2 yellow spots together as they share one thing in common. They are way better in Marne realm. These 2 spots are neck and neck in their shards per hour, with any difference between them being class and possibly preference. In Elvia Nagas, once you're in Marne realm, you want to be in this triangular rotation and you will kill these big guys. Each of them will spawn a small wave of small guys. So you kill those small guys and you move on to the next pack. If you are fast enough, the loot from the small guys should still be on the floor on your next go around killing the big guys. Similarly, in Biragi Marni realm, you want to be in this more of a rectangular shape and just kill the mobs as they spawn, and you should be picking loot from the previous waves. If you get the weapon in Nagas, you just continue. If you get it in Biragi, then you have to extend it to the top of the hill, but that's about it. If you are out of Marni realm, I would generally recommend against going to Elvia Nagas, as you will have to wait for loot here, so just go to Biragi or to a different spot altogether. Biragi rotation outside of Marni realm is just running around the entire zone in a large circle that looks kind of like this. From here on out, the spots will get rather simple to choose between, as you only really get a single option. This is because the Altar Rims and Castle Ruins are both group spots. Altar Rims is the weirdest of the bunch, since it has its own different unique mechanic, where you have these big flags guarded by 3 imps, and your goal is to get the elite mobs scattered around the flags in a somewhat oval shape to low HP, which will make them follow you for longer distances, and then you kite these big elite mobs to the flag where you kill them, and after you kill them at the flag, you spawn another wave of mobs. Maybe you will like this spot, but I really don't like kiting mobs in this game, so for me it's a big no-no. They don't seem that great in terms of shards, so I would say avoid this place unless you have a friend that you wanna grind with. Castle Ruins is a little bit better because it is a regular spot and it's a trio spot at that. There isn't much here in terms of mechanics. The only thing here is the secret order that you can get randomly from an NPC, which you need to go to a special place to activate, upon which you will spawn elite mobs in a given rotation, where if you kill enough of those mobs, you spawn a big boss near the place of activation. You can grind here solo, but it's not something I would really recommend. If you do, you have these rotations to pick from, but the one in the actual castle you will most likely have to extend into the camp when you get the Elvia weapon anyway. Which brings us to the 2 best zones in Elvia Serendia. The 2 you already probably know about: Elvia Orcs and Elvia Fogans. I have already made a dedicated video on Fogans, although this was before the combat overhaul, so it's a tiny bit outdated, mostly in terms of setup and consumables. The money on that spot is still really good though, especially for that gear bracket, so all you need to know is that you can just stay in Marni realm until you get a weapon and then wreak havoc on the mobs outside of Marni realm, or vice versa. More details in the video, so I don't really repeat myself here since this is supposed to be shorter. Orcs is in a similar spot, as it has been talked about to death. Once again, you can stay in Marni here if you like, but if not, the rotations are as follows. The thing to know here is that as you grind here, you will inevitably break some wooden prisons that will release lights into the air. After enough of these prisons are broken, these will make the mobs inside those lights weaker, but only inside them. Therefore, you want to stay in as few of these areas as possible, generally speaking 2, and you will most likely have to extend those into a 3rd one once you get the Elvia weapon. So the extensions are on your screen right now. Again, everyone knows orcs already, so just go here for your red shards. When you are grinding in the red zones, you will also get the Heart of the Arid Forest. This is for your cup for just the necklace, but chances are that you can buy this from the center market anyway. If you plan on grinding your cups on the spots, I suggest you just make this yourself because you will get them eventually anyway, and they can serve as a little bit extra money in these spots. This brings us to the final topic. Which combo of colors should you do? Well, if you are grinding these for yourself, you kinda have to do all 3, since even with the Karazad accessories, there is only one earring cup and that one requires yellows. If you are grinding here for money, the answer is quite obvious: Fogans and Orcs. I didn't mention it until now, but every now and then we get the cup event in the game, where every grind spot can drop you the shards or the purple jewels that you exchange for shards. So if you are patient and or lucky enough to watch this guide during or after such an event, you can now skip a number of these zones entirely and make your cups that way, even if you don't go to Elvia at all. What I would recommend though is to go to either Orcs or Fogans and supplement the other shards with the purple jewels that way. The other thing to say here is to never sell your cups, if you do plan on selling them, as their basic variant, but as the Karazad cups instead. Even on EU, with the essences dropping in price, it is still around 1 to 1.5 bill profit if you buy the 20 essences needed to upgrade the cup and sell the Karazad cup. If you don't want to or you cannot do this, that's fine as well. And yeah, That's all there is to say on the cups and their associated zones. Was a bit less in a nutshell than I wanted it to be, but I hope that you appreciate me going a bit more in depth on the zones and their rotations. That's all I have for today, handsome. Remember to like and subscribe, and enjoy your grind.